What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 91 of the Idiotic Sports Talk. I'm your host, Liam Gavin, coming to you live from my dining room. And today I just want to give a NFL recap of Week 13. A lot of great games that happened. Let's start with the Thursday night game. We have the Cowboys beating the Saints 27-17. Dak Prescott, 238 passing yards, a touchdown, and an interception. CeeDee Lamb, 7 catches for 58 yards. Running back Tony Pollard broke off a huge 58-yard rushing touchdown, and Michael Gallup had an acrobatic touchdown reception in the end zone. As for Saints quarterback Taysom Hill, 264 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and 101 rushing yards. And his main weapon was Deontay Harris, 4 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown. My thoughts on the game is that the Cowboys get a much-needed win to go 8-4 on the season. A win is a win, but I wasn't too happy about it as a Cowboys fan, honestly. The defense balled out, and I can't discredit them, but the offense struggled at times, and hopefully the Cowboys could figure it out on offense like they did earlier this season. The Saints, they continue to struggle with no Jameis Winston or Alvin Kamara after they now lost 5 straight and are now 5-7 on the season. Next is the Sunday games. We have the Colts shutting out the Texans 31-0. Carson Wentz, 158 passing yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions. Running back Jonathan Taylor, 143 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and a fumble. As for Texans quarterback Tyrod Taylor, 45 passing yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. He also left the game with a wrist injury, so speedy recovery to Tyrod Taylor, because I feel like whenever he starts to play, he just can't get over the injury bug. So the Colts, they get a bounce-back win to go 6-7 on the season. To go 7-6 on the season. And Jonathan Taylor had another fantastic performance running the ball. He is the best running back in the NFL, no doubt, especially with Derrick Henry out. He solidified himself as the best back in the league. And the Colts defense, they've been making noise all season. They had an interception, a forced fumble, 4 sacks, and they also gave up 0 points. So credit to the Colts defense. And the Texans just had an awful day all around. They only had 178 total yards, while the Colts had 396 total yards. The Texans are now 2-10 on the season, and they have now officially been eliminated from the playoffs. They are the first team this season to be eliminated from the playoffs. Next is the Lions winning a thriller over the Vikings, 29-27. Jared Goff, 296 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, an interception, and a fumble. Amon-Ra St. Brown, his receiver, had 10 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown. And Kirk Cousins for the Vikings threw for 340 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he did fumble the ball. And Justin Jefferson putting up a monster stat line, 11 catches, 182 yards, and a touchdown. So the Lions, they finally get their first win of the season. Jared Goff finds his receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, for the game-winning touchdown with only 4 seconds left in the game. I'm real happy for Detroit because, in my opinion, no team deserves to go winless on the season unless if they're the Eagles or the Giants or the Washington football team. The Lions are now 1 win, 10 losses, and 1 tie on the season. And the Vikings just blew it. This is another game that they lose by 1 possession. They just can't get over that. They had this game won. Their defense just got super lazy on that last drive and just gave up a touchdown. Vikings are now 5-7 on the season. Next is the Dolphins beating the Giants 20-9. Tua Tagovailoa, 244 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And the rookie Jalen Waddle continues to impress, 9 catches for 90 yards. As for Giants quarterback Mike Glennon stepping up for the injured Daniel Jones, he threw for 187 passing yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. And Evan Ingram was the tight end, had 4 catches for 61 yards. The Dolphins have now won 5 straight games and now have a 6-7 record. Their offense and defense is starting to click at the right time. And as for the Giants, they just continue to struggle. Their offense just looks abysmal. Even when they fired Jason Garrett, they thought that could maybe change things, and honestly, they've just gotten worse. Giants are now 4-8 on the season. Next is the Bucs beating the Falcons 30-17. Tom Brady, 368 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. Chris Godwin had 15 catches for 143 yards. Mike Evans, 7 catches for 99 yards. Rob Gronkowski, the tight end, 4 catches, 58 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And the running back, Leonard Fournette, had 7 catches, 48 yards, and a receiving touchdown. As for Falcons QB, Matt Ryan, 297 passing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. And Russell Gage, the receiver, had 11 catches for 130 yards, but he did have a costly fumble. And the Bucs just cruised right past Atlanta to go to a 9-3 record. And the Bucs offense, I mean, everyone stepped up. You had obviously Tom Brady doing his thing, but then the receivers, Godwin and Evans, putting up good stat lines. Rob Gronkowski looking like the Patriots' Rob Gronkowski. And Leonard Fournette, he can run the ball, and he's an awesome pass catcher as well. And the Falcons, they just, like I said, they were going to be competitive the first half, but then they didn't score in the second half at all. And, it's just rough to be a Falcons fan because the Falcons have never beaten Tom Brady ever. The Falcons are 5-7 on the year now with that loss. Next is the Eagles beating the Jets 33-18. Gardner Minshew, 242 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Miles Sanders rushed for 120 yards. And the tight end Dallas Goedert had 6 catches, 105 yards for 2 touchdowns. And the rookie Zach Wilson, 226 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and interceptions, and a rushing touchdown. And his guy, Elijah Moore, also a rookie, had 6 catches for 77 yards and a touchdown. And Gardner Minshew, he gets his first start since 2020, and he gets the Eagles a win and a 6-7 record. And, he looked good out there, too. And it sucks because I can't root for this guy anymore because he's on the Eagles. And as for Zach Wilson, the rookie, I think he did a great job. It's just once the Jets start doing good on offense, it's like their defense just decides to do terrible. The Jets would score and they would give up a score right back to the Eagles. Or even if the Jets had to punt, the Eagles would just drive down the field and score. Jets are now 3-9 on the season. Next is the Cardinals taking care of business against the Bears 33-22. Kyler Murray, 123 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He also had 59 rushing yards for 2 rushing touchdowns. And running back James Conner and wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, they each had a receiving touchdown on the day. As for Bears quarterback Andy Dalton, 229 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And David Montgomery, the running back, 90 rushing yards and a touchdown. He also had 8 catches for 51 yards. And wide receiver Jakeem Grant, 5 catches, 62 yards, and a touchdown. So Murray, who was out for a couple weeks, he looked good in his return as the Cardinals get the win, and they now have a 10-2 record. And the Cardinals defense had a good game too, 3 sacks and 4 interceptions. And outside of David Montgomery, the Bears offense was just horrendous. Andy Dalton just had an awful game. Bears are now 4-8 on the season. Next is the Chargers beating the Bengals 41-22. Justin Herbert, 317 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Mike Williams, 5 catches for 110 yards. And Keenan Allen, he had himself a day, catching 2 touchdown passes. Joe Burrow of the Bengals threw for 300 passing yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. He fumbled as well, but he also had a rushing touchdown. And T. Higgins was his main receiver on the day with 9 catches, 138 yards, and a touchdown. So the Chargers get a win on the road to go 7-5 on the season. Justin Herbert had another great game, and the Chargers defense really stepped up as well. And this game, it looked like it was going to be a complete blowout at first. It was 24-0 Chargers. Then the Bengals battled back to make it 24-22. And they were moving down the field when Joe Mixon fumbled the ball. It was scooped up by a Chargers defender and ran back for a touchdown. And that just swung the momentum right back to the Chargers and kind of just ripped the hearts out of the Bengals. Burrow really did not have a great game. I know he's been playing pretty well all season, but, on Sunday he just didn't pull through. Bengals are now 7-5 on the season. Next is the Rams crushing the Jaguars 37-7. Matt Stafford, 295 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Sony Michel, 120 rushing yards and a touchdown. Cooper Kupp, 8 catches for $129 and a touchdown. And Odell Beckham Jr. and Van Jefferson, they each caught a receiving touchdown on Sunday as well. As for Jags quarterback Trevor Lawrence, 145 rushing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. And Carlos Hyde, he was the only guy to score on the Jags that day. He had a rushing touchdown, but he also fumbled the ball as well. So the Rams bounce back after losing 3 straight, and they blow out the Jags and are now 8-4 on the season. Stafford and the Rams wide receiver core, they were clicking perfectly this game. And Sony Michel stepped up for the injured Darrell Henderson. He put up a nice stat line. And Rams defense, they had 2 sacks, and they also had 2 forced fumbles on the day. And the Jags were just, they were useless versus the Rams. They couldn't really do anything out there against the defense. The offense just couldn't get anything going. The Jags are now 2-10 on the season. Next is the Washington football team beating the Raiders 17-15. Taylor Heineke, 196 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Antonio Gibson, the running back, had 88 rushing yards, and he also had a receiving touchdown. As for Derek Carr of the Raiders, 249 passing yards, no touchdowns or interceptions. And Josh Jacobs, the running back, 52 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. He also had 9 catches for 38 yards. And receiver Hunter Renfrow had 9 catches for 102 yards. So the Washington football team wins their 4th straight and now have a 6-6 record. And I hate to say it, but Washington's starting to play good football at the right time. The defense is finally stepping up. Their run game is finally getting together. And, they're stringing something along right now. And the Raiders, they just go back to being the Raiders. I mean, before they beat the Cowboys, they lost 3 straight. And they beat up a Cowboys team that did not have their top 2 receivers. And, they get that win on Thanksgiving. And, I guess they thought that they could go in the right direction. And they were wrong because they lose the very next game to Washington. And now the Raiders are 6-6 on the season. Next is the Steelers beating the Ravens 20-19. Ben Roethlisberger, 236 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. His receiver, Deontay Johnson, had a great game, 8 catches, 105 yards for 2 touchdowns. And as for Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson, 253 passing yards, a touchdown, and an interception. And Hollywood Brown, he put up 5 catches for 55 yards. And the Steelers, they got a much-needed win versus a divisional rival. And their record is now 6 wins, 5 losses, and 1 tie on the year. And Big Ben actually did a good job this game. He didn't turn the ball over once. And the Steelers' defense, they made it rough for Lamar Jackson. They sacked him 7 times. And 3.5 sacks were recorded by T.J. Watt. Definitely in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. The Ravens' offensive line just looked horrible. I mean, they gave Lamar absolutely no protection at all that afternoon. And the Ravens, I don't know what they were thinking at the end of the game. They should have kicked a field goal to go into overtime. Instead, they got greedy. They tried going for 2, and they did not get the 2-point conversion, and the Steelers stole the win from them. The Ravens are now 8-4 on the season. Next is the Seahawks beating the Niners 30-23. Russell Wilson, 231 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Adrian Peterson, in his first game with the Seahawks, had a rushing touchdown. And Tyler Lockett had 7 catches for 68 yards and a touchdown. Jimmy G of the Niners, Jimmy Garoppolo, 299 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. And Eli Mitchell, the rookie, had 66 rushing yards and a touchdown. And George Kittle, 9 catches, 181 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So Seattle gets back in the win column, and they are now 4-8 on the season. Russell Wilson had a pretty good game, but the real MVP was running back Travis Homer. He had a fake punt. They went to punt it, but instead he took the snap, ran it right up the middle for a touchdown. And as for the Niners, it's good to see George Kittle back. He had a monster game despite the loss. But, the Niners are now 6-6. They won 3 straight before this, but they take a tough loss to a division rival. Next is the Chiefs beating the Broncos 22-9. Patrick Mahomes, 184 passing yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, but he did have a rushing touchdown. And running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 54 rushing yards, 3 catches for 28 yards. He was definitely the Chiefs' biggest offensive weapon that day. As for quarterback Teddy Bridgewater of the Broncos, he had 257 passing yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. And the rookie running back Javonte Williams had a really nice day, 102 rushing yards, 6 catches for 76 yards, and a receiving touchdown. And the Chiefs, don't blink too fast, because they have now won 5 straight games and are now 8-4 on the season. Mahomes really didn't have that great of a game, but the Chiefs' defense has been stepping up. They recorded a sack, a forced fumble, and 2 interceptions. 1 interception was ran back for a pick 6. And outside of Javonte Williams, the Denver offense just wasn't there at all. The Denver defense looked pretty good, I'll say that, but their offense was just absent. They took the night off. Denver is now 6-6 on the season. Last but not least, the Monday Night Football game, we have the Patriots beating the Bills 14-10. Mac Jones, the rookie, he only threw for 19 yards. He had no touchdowns and no interceptions. And Damian Harris, the running back, put up a nice stat line, 111 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Josh Allen of the Bills threw for 145 passing yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, and he did fumble the ball. Stephon Diggs had 4 catches for 51 yards. And the Patriots have now won 7 straight games to go 9-4 on the season. They beat their divisional rivals in their own building in what was a snowy game. Mac Jones, he only threw 3 times. He completed 2 passes for 19 yards and still won the game. And that's because the Patriots' run game was awesome. They had 222 rushing yards, while the Bills only had 99 rushing yards. And I don't know what it was. The Bills, they're just not good at stopping the run, and they're not good at running the ball themselves, because the Bills knew the Patriots were going to run the ball every single play, and they just couldn't stop it. The Bills are now 7-5 on the season. And that is it for the Week 13 recap. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. Like and share my content. Do whatever you can to promote my page. Thank you all. Have a wonderful night.